AY can jump in on this one. What is there a difference between someone who played around, horsed around, horsed around, like fourth grade maybe say, horsed around that guy. He horsed around during high school, during elementary school, whatever, She horsed around. Is there a difference between someone like that or someone who was in a shidduch relationship and broke Shomer? Is there a difference there? Should we be judging people differently between the two?
That's a good question. When I was in yeshiva in Israel, I remember they were giving a dating schmooze, and one of the guys asked the Rebbe, said, so when it comes to dating, do we tell the girls about our past girlfriends? And the Rebbe looked at me and said, what girlfriend? And the guy's like, okay, yeah, but seriously, like if we had a girlfriend, like do we mention it? And the guy goes, and the Rebbe goes, what girlfriend? I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea. And this happened like 2 or 3 times. One of his dates. So the point that they were making is that what happened in your past, if it's no longer part of your life, if it's genuinely no longer part of your life, is it okay? No. Is it a mess up? Yes. But is it no longer part of your life? Yes. If it's no longer relevant, then it's really no longer relevant. Again, I want to emphasize that point. Don't make a mistake and say, oh, it happened in the past. Could it happen again? Yeah, but like it was a long time ago. If it's still part and parcel of your being, just because it happened 50 years ago, it still has to be brought up. But if it happened 5 years ago and you are completely changed since then it's not something to be brought up at all. Again, say it's funny, I never had that in high school. So it could be people, again, suffer with this, like people want real honesty and openness in their relationships. So it could be that people struggle with that. Like, oh, I want, in their mind, they're battling. I want to be open with this girl, but, I was told not to. So that's something I can't answer because I never, thank God, had to deal with that. In life, there are many things that are challenging and you deal with them and we slip. Everybody here, everybody sitting in this podcast studio and everybody who's listening to this right now has done things in life that they're not proud of. And you know what? That's part of being a human being. And you have to learn how to deal with that. You have to say, okay, I slipped. I'm going to get better. You can speak to people about it, right? But I much prefer that mode of living than just saying, oh, I did this. Actually, it was okay. No, there were no iPhones. There was the iPod Touch, right? The iPod Touches. And now third and fourth graders have an iPhone, right? So it's very, very difficult to tell them to turn into
shut up. Some of them have done that because they want them to call them younger. It's pretty crazy, actually.
But it's so hard for kids to, as addicted as adults are, and we can admit that to a certain extent. Like I don't have a browser on my iPhone because I'm not interested in constant. And I still find myself looking at it all the time. I log into my banking when I'm bored. It's because I don't have games and I don't.
Because he's a Jew. Because he's a Jew.
Exactly.
Because everyone else is doing it.
But I want to make
so. Let me just finish my point. I'm sorry for getting sidetracked.
No, go ahead.
But for the average person, for everybody here, Shabbos is not something we struggle with, right? It's not something, we don't sit there on tenterhooks saying like, oh man, I just want to watch that movie. I just want to drive my car. Very few of us. Kosher, the same thing. I used to travel all the time. I went to high school across the country from where I lived, where I grew up.
Right.
And I would be so hungry and I would stop off in like Memphis, which is famous for its barbecue. And there would always be such good smells in the airport. It would smell good. I never even had one question in my mind like, oh man, maybe just this time. Relationships, though, the drive between man and woman, the desire to touch, the desire for any of that is so overpowering. It's the strongest drive we have, right? And that is the way God created us. So to say that it's the same as Shabbos and Kashrus is not really fair because,
I love this guy.
But again, it goes back to what I'm saying earlier. It is the strongest drive, and therefore many people might slip, but don't sugarcoat it and say it's not so bad.
Sure.
Because it is wrong.
I agree with everything that Rabbi AY is saying. I just want to I want to add something about judgment here. Whether someone should be judged for making that mistake of not being shomer. And I think that it comes down to this, what Rabbi AY said, which is if they actually feel guilt, admit that it was wrong, they made a mistake and they're looking to not make that mistake again, no judgment there. We all make mistakes. However, if they're going to start rationalizing why it really wasn't their fault, why wasn't it this, that, it wasn't a mistake, it didn't really happen, and start, covering up and all that, then, yeah, I mean, it's fair to judge them that they're not being Shomer and they're just someone who's not Shomer. But if they actually feel guilty about it and admit they're wrong and, hope that they're not going to fall into that again, then I think that you just leave it and consider them to be Shomer from now on. Like you said, born again virgin, whatever you want to call it.
So I said tshuva. You said
tshuva. Yeah, I think it's the same sort of tshuva. Listen, if they're saying the same thing as happened 1 week, then it happened 2 weeks. Okay,
agreed.
then how
So
many?
Paige, think about our audience. So we have a person going in first shidduch date.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about Shomer, whatever, second date goes well, third date. How do you differentiate somebody from what they say they do, if they're Shomer or not, from what their actions were? Is there a way to tell a little bit about this person, what you think they're going to project them into the future, meaning someone who keeps halacha, like we said, there is that difference. Are we going to be judging their actions or their words mostly? What do you think?
I think their actions speak louder than words. I mean, if you don't experience it, what are you believing? You want to believe the person that you're dating. You want to trust that person. If you can't trust that person, then there's a big issue, deeper issue. So if they're saying that they're Shomer, yeah, they're words, but then they're actually Shomer, and you see that, then that solidifies what they're saying. So I guess a little bit of both, but definitely action and trust.
Nobody talks, nobody talks, nobody talks shidduchim.
This is the Nobody Talks Shidduchim podcast.